The Shark Deck.
Hello and welcome to Palace Intrigue. I am your host, Mark Francis. From Fox News, Prince William and Kate Middleton's marriage seems perfect, but it's not all sweetness. That's the claim by author Tom Quinn in a new book titled Gilded Youth, An Intimate History of Growing Up in the Royal Family. Quinn told Fox Digital, "Someone at the palace told me about the nicknames they have for each other, but it's not all sweetness. They have terrible rows where they throw things at each other. Kate might seem to be a very calm person, and William also, but it's not always true because the big stress for William and Kate is that they're constantly surrounded by palace aides. It's like a Jane Austen novel. Kate apparently calls the future king Babe and Babykins, while he calls her Duchess of Doolittle. William also allegedly fusses over his wife's endless mane of hair, which prompts her to jokingly call him Baldy." Quinn added, "Kate is very much the calm one. William is the one who's a bit hot-headed. We see an example of that in Harry's book, but Kate is very level-headed. She's the one who will pour oil on troubled waters and go, 'Let's not stir things up.' Of course, privately, William and Kate, like all couples, fall out, row, shout at each other and say unkind things to each other. But Kate is an appeaser by instinct, and William always gives way as he's had more than enough emotional turmoil, divorce and disruption as a child. I remember when the press was so horrible to Kate, they said because her mother was a stewardess, as it used to be called in those days. No one would invite the family to any events where there was anyone of significance present. The press would remark how she was descended from working-class people, which is an absolutely cruel thing to say. But Kate never responded. She didn't complain. She didn't write letters to the press or ring in the editors. She said nothing. And that was a good move. She illustrated how calm she was about those things and didn't make a fuss. And then it vanished. Kate and Meghan Markle got the same nasty press coverage, but in Meghan's case she complained that it was unfair, it was unkind, it was horrible. That only keeps the story alive for weeks. In Kate's case, she ignored it. She's very wise for it, and I think when she gets into any rows with William, she does the same. She just ignores it. Quinn pointed out that the Waleses don't want to be seen as perfect. Kate said, "Like every other couple, we have days when we are really, really cross with each other, or days when we don't talk to each other. They want to be seen as an ordinary couple with the same stresses of having children, work, and everything else that life brings." I think that they are the first generation that you could almost say they've broken the mold of this very traditional royal upbringing where you basically pay other people to do all the work and you only see your children for half an hour a day. They've broken the mold, but not entirely. I think they like the idea that they've put out, that they want their children to have a more normal childhood because that goes down well with the public. On one hand, they want to represent this traditional continuity, this glorious world that the rest of us can look up to, but on the other hand, they want to be seen as ordinary people just like the rest of us. They've said they want their children to have a more normal childhood, and I think genuinely they will. But it won't be as much as the rest of us. It won't be the same way that we define it. They've moved to Windsor, although they've kept their apartment at Kensington Palace. They've moved to Windsor because there's far more space for the children to play. But Eton, the prestigious school that the boys are more likely to go to, is only 10 minutes from Windsor, and that means their parents can see them more often. When poor King Charles went to school in Scotland, he didn't see his parents for months at a time. Quinn's book suggests Kate wants to escape her middle-class childhood. She dislikes burgers and chips and wouldn't dream of taking her children to McDonald's, and she doesn't rock the boat when the vast weight of traditional royal purists bears down on their children. Kate will take the salute for the very first time as Colonel of the Irish Guards during a visit to Mons Barracks on this St. Patrick's Day. She will be joined by the outgoing Colonel, Prince William. Royal Central tells us the princess will present the traditional sprigs of shamrock to the officers and guardsmen who will in turn issue it along the ranks, as well as presenting it to the Irish Wolfhound regimental mascot. The parade will conclude with a royal salute and march past, where Her Royal Highnesses will take the salute as the new Colonel. Following the parade, the Royal Highnesses will meet the Irish Guards Association, which comprises of past members of the Irish Guards. The princess will be invited to inspect the front rank, while the prince will inspect the second rank. Palace Intrigue, we'll be right back.
Hey, it's Jordan Ross Myers, the man behind Twitter's notorious Lee Radswell and Don Gunvalson. I'm inviting you to join me every week for the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Along with my co-host, reality casting director Stacey Noel Connor, and disgraced entertainment TV producer Nate Safer, we deconstruct pop culture's past, present, and future and probe the dark crevices of Hollywood, taking you inside the scandals, feuds, rises, and falls of society's rich and infamous. Alongside interviews with our celebrity friends and special guest hosts, everything is fair game on the Pretty Corrupt podcast. Every Tuesday on all streaming platforms and at storicmedia.com.
People reports Netflix cameras were recently seen rolling near the University of St Andrews in Scotland, where Kate and William met and fell in love. Ed McVeigh, who plays Prince William, was photographed doing a double take over Meg Bellamy, who has been cast as Kate. We see a sweatshirt-clad William passing Kate on a run by the coast, looking back over his shoulders as she jogs along, unfazed in a zip-up jacket, leggings, sneakers and headphones. In a 2010 interview, Kate said it took time for them to get to know each other, in part due to her bashfulness. William added, "We were friends for over a year first. It just sort of blossomed from then on." The Guardian writes, "Another day, another photo of Kate, but will the non-stop exposure neutralise the rebel Sussexes?" They observe photos of Kate have become a commonplace on newspaper front pages in recent months, accompanied by glowing reports of an uncomplicated, unshowy and selflessly loyal royal. There have been photo opportunities with the Welsh Guards in Windsor, a spin class in Hills in Port Talbot, a visit to the Drug Rehabilitation Centre, and to the England's team's dressing room after they beat Wales, the nation of which she is princess. This is the kind of work, of course, that members of the royal family have performed for decades, but not normally with the degree of media prominence that the princess has enjoyed this year. Between the whistle-top schedule that Kensington Palace has put together and the willingness of a significant section of the press to plaster the princess's progress across its pages, it almost seems like a coordinated PR campaign, or perhaps a counter-PR campaign, one constructed with the specific purpose of neutralising a less conformist message disseminated by the Wales' arch-enemies, the Sussexes. It seems that the person chosen to embody these stoical qualities leading up to King Charles' coronation is not the king himself, a man whose equilibrium cannot survive a leaking pen, nor his heir, William, who, according to his younger brother, is possessed of a dangerously volcanic temper. Instead, the face of all that is good and constant, determined and calm as the saintly Kate, an angel in combat fatigues, a heroine in a hijab. And there you have it. If you'd like to email us, our address is thepalaceintrigue@gmail.com. Please follow us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, even YouTube Music or your podcast app of choice. I'm Mark Francis. My thanks to John McDermott. This is Palace Intrigue and good times.